The Doorway by Words For Elysium.
Tracing fine lines with fingers entwined, no wrongs or rights as the paths twist and bind. Warmth in the night is hard to find amongst this bitter and twisted humankind. So praise the connection sent from the source. The doorway to the heavens can never be forced. On parallel paths two souls can roam, never to meet till they make it back home.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Blue Pigment Podcast. Today I'm joined by Sam. He is a former Royal Marine and now he's an advocate for mental health. And he delves into, we're going to dive into in a minute about ice baths, breathing, connectivity with nature and with self and with others. How are you, Sam?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Really honoured. Thank you.
It's a privilege to have you here. Thank you for joining us. So I just want to dive straight into a question, and that's about yourself. So do you want to tell us more about yourself from when you were a young lad up until now? I know you used to be in the Royal Marines.
Frozen, I'm afraid.
Never. I'll edit that bit out, or just leave it in. Keep it flowing. Yeah. So just about yourself, then. Just give us a short brief.
Okay. Yeah. Really quickly. I sort of father was an ex-bootneck. He went in the SBS. He joined at 14. As a junior bugler, so that was always on my radar as a kid. So I was in the cadets, the Royal Marine Cadets, and then I started the process at 15 to join the bootnecks. And then I joined the Corps, got me greenlit at 17, did 9 years. There wasn't that much going on, to be honest. When I was in, there was, what did we have, Northern Ireland and Norway. That was the sort of thing. It was in the late 80s and 90s. I left that, went abroad, did some CP work like you do, and then surveillance. I was in the surveillance industry up until 4 years. I think I did my last job 3.5 years ago. I did my last surveillance work. And all that impacted on my mental health. There's a lot of trauma, lots of people dying around me, and lots of stuff going on that we all have. And my way of dealing with it was drinking. And my dad was an alcoholic, so it was like learned behaviour. So I drank, I did drugs, lots of cocaine and that sort of thing. I'm open about that. I work with the police now. I'm really open with my addictions. I think it's important to get it out there. So I that's how I sort of self-medicated. And then it became too much. And I tried to take my own life. Luckily, I wasn't very good at it. And I was rushed into Stepping Hill, stayed in there. Stayed in Stepping Hill Hospital for about 2 months because I was just worried that if I went back out, I'd try and do it again. So anyway, I did. I came back out eventually, went back into the surveillance world, started to drink again. I started to slip down that process and tried to take my own life again. And luckily, ambulance came in, Rock to Recovery stepped in. So Rock to Recovery, Jason Fox's oh God, I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, so the Rock to Recovery stepped in and they really sort of looked after me. I was supported, and I went from there to work with Steve Burns on this, who's an ex-bootneck. I was a moderator on a group he'd set up called Op Spartan on Facebook. So I started to help out on that, sort of supporting other veterans and people in the forces and emergency service workers. And from that, I found that I had something that by helping others, it sort of helped me. So I was still struggling with drinking, if I'm honest. I was still drinking at the time, quite heavily. But looking for something. I did an NLP course. I did a hypnotherapy course. And on that hypnotherapy course, there was a guy who was taking it, who was doing Wim Hof breathing. And I saw him in the corner of the room doing this breath work, and I looked at him and I thought, who's that weirdo? That's weird. So he said, you need to do this. You need this in your life. So it was Wim Hof breathing he was doing, and people probably have heard of that. So I sat down next to him and I did this, against my better judgment, because I'm thinking, this is weird stuff, man. So I'm sat there breathing into my belly, and I did it for 20 minutes with him, got in a cold ice bath afterwards. And from that day, honestly, that morning I woke up, my whole brain worked differently. I was looking into Buddhism, I was looking into to Taoism. I started to look into Alan Watts, and all of this whole world opened up. Not saying that that's going to happen to anyone if they do breath work, but I had an awakening in that moment. So from then, I realized that breath work was powerful. So I started to pass it on to other veterans, other emergency service workers. And on that group, there's a woman, an amazing woman who's my dear friend now, called Helen Barnett. Now, Helen was a Met police woman in the 90s. And in 10 years service, she had 3 serious, really traumatic incidents. She was shot through a job in the armed response. Then she was caught up in an RA explosion and then stabbed 3 times in another instance. So those are 3 traumatic incidences. And she was pensioned off them by the Met Police and no real mental health support. So she just went off and she got into powerlifting and threw herself into fizz, which a lot of us do. A lot of you'll probably know yourself, people deal with their mental health through fizz. It doesn't really scratch it does something. It's going to release endorphins, but it doesn't really get to the root of the problem. So Helen saw me on this group, Op Spartan, and she saw me doing this breath work, and I didn't know what I was talking about. It was just showing people how I did it. So she just turned up at my door, drove all the way up from the Cotswolds and to the Peak District, and showed up and said, I want this in my life. I can see it's helped you. So me and Helen, I did some breath work. Didn't really know what I was talking about. Got in the river. It was about -2 in the Peak District, and it's from that day that she had a quite profound experience. But the breath work, the Wim Hof style of breath work, was bringing on trauma in Helen. So I thought, but the cold water worked. So I thought, oh, no, I don't know enough about breath work. I'm not trained in it. It's really powerful. So that's when I met Miranda, my partner. I sought her out, really. I'd heard about her, and she's trained in conscious connected breath work. She's trained in other types of modalities of breath work, but also nutritional therapists. So we started to work together, and through Helen Barnett, we developed a technique along the lines of Wim Hof and conscious connected breath work, the Joe Dispenza meditation, some Vipassana meditation. We put it all together, and it's called dynamic breath work. And that's what, along that, we use that now with, we work with the police, we work with veterans, we work with whoever, the general public, and we use that technique to address people with PTSD, people with trauma related stuff, and also just as a daily practice. You don't have to be, it also, we use it with the police because it's about getting to them before the world gets too much, or it's about using it as a daily practice, and that's where I am now, sitting here wearing beads and looking at Buddhism. It started from that breathwork session.
That's amazing. Like everyone starts on a journey in some direction, and that journey takes you in a direction that takes you to a certain place. And for you, it seems like that enlightenment and wisdom has come through that. I did the exact same with drinking at certain points in my life. I'd come back from tour and seen some bad stuff out there, and my coping mechanisms at the time were drinking. And at a young age, I didn't think that was an issue. It just happened to be what I was doing, and it wasn't until I got older that I realized, hang on, that was a bad course of action to have taken. Luckily, it's sort of certain incidents happened in my life where I was like, right, I need to tame the drinking down now. And then I started, I went on a 2-year no drinking sort of ban myself for 2 years. I'm back into it now because I trust myself more now, because I went through that process in order to understand self and be like, oh, I'm reacting that way because of the stuff that happened in the past, and I'm not that person anymore, and I've dealt with it. But it was really interesting, you're saying that you went from, Royal Marine for 9 years, it's a long period of your life, and in that sort of time frame, and the same, I see it every day at work, you get the tough guy mentality, and then to go into later on in life, Buddhism and being more harmonious and being in harmony with yourself and others around you. It kind of seems like a disconnect, but it's actually really is connected, because you've got to go through something in some instance, you've got to go through something in order to push you in the direction. And a lot of times when you see people that are peaceful and loving and calm, it's because they've been through something probably traumatic, or they've had to be tough at some point in their life, and that's given that realization that you don't always have to be tough. there are elements and times in your life that you can sort of take a step back and be calm and a relaxed person. I love that you mentioned the Wim Hof breathing. I got into ice baths first, and that was before the Wim Hof documentary that's been, Wim Hof TV show that's recently came out. And straight away, it was kind of like a really nice time. That the cold water, the lack of senses, so I couldn't feel because my body felt numb. I couldn't smell or see anything when I dipped my head under the water, and it was kind of like really calm and relaxing. And it wasn't until afterwards I'd read then about Wim Hof and began doing the breathing techniques. And I did one myself, did a load of breaths. And at no point before this had I known that I could hold my breath for 3 minutes, with relative ease. And with those breathing techniques that you probably do as well, I discovered something else about myself just by trying something new. But also I had it was kind of like a dream whilst I was doing the breath work. I kind of felt like I'd woke up from a dream. I couldn't remember what the dream was about, but it was really important and it felt really powerful whilst I was in this sort of meditated mind state. Do you want to tell us more about that sort of meditation side of the breathing and what it does for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So there's different types of breath work. The one that we do is you do get altered states of consciousness. There's a few reasons why that might happen. The science been proven now. Wim Hof's got a lot of the science in, and people like to know the science. Some of it is because you're flooding your body with neurotransmitters, so dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, acetylcholine, all those things are associated with calm. You're getting yourself into rest and digest with the somatic breathing. When you breathe deeply into your diaphragm, you connect into your vagus nerve, which then all these things. When we're stressed, especially you guys who are out there doing tours, or people who've done tours in stressful jobs, they breathe shallowly, so they'll breathe firstly through the mouth, but they breathe into the chest. So the vagus, they get very poor vagal tone. So when you breathe like that and you go deep into your diaphragm, you're stimulating your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve will get you into that rest and digest. You flood your body with those chemicals. But there's also the other thing that we're really interested in is when we do the hold and squeeze. So you're creating some pressure on we believe the spinal fluid. The spinal fluid goes up and down through the body. And when you do this hold and squeeze that you do when you do the Wim Hof or you do ours, we focus on the central column. Now, putting pressure on that, we believe, releases, decalcifies the pineal gland. The pineal gland is about the size of a grain of rice, right at the front of your brain, and it calcifies over time. So we're told. When you open that up, there's a theory yet unproven, but you decalcify it, and also you're bypassing. We have DMT. So DMT is something if you do ayahuasca and plant medicine, people do ayahuasca and plant medicines. Well, the DMT is actually in your body. You produce DMT all the time, but there's an enzyme that breaks it down. When you can bypass that enzyme by breathing deeply. So you're creating big quantities of DMT in your body. So that's why you might get that sense of connected, altered states of consciousness, but also insight, intuition is so the third eye is associated with the pineal gland, and all these things are things that aren't really quite proven yet. But this isn't a new thing Wim's designed. I think these breathing techniques have been around for about 8,000 years. So the Hindus before the Buddhists Buddha was a Hindu before he was Buddha. He would have been, that's what he would have been. And they would get into deep states of meditation, and they'd use breath work, the similar breath work we use, to get into that deep state of meditation. So when you focus on your breath, every breath in and every breath out, every breath in, every breath out, you go into that state of meditation. And that's all meditation is really. It's just disconnecting from this thinking mind, the thinking mind that we're in all the time. It's the ego, so it's connected to future or past, and none of those things actually exist. But yeah, that's where we sit in. We don't sit in the present moment. We sit in the future, or that we're worrying about stuff that we that isn't a reality, and we worry about the past, which is stuff that's happened to us. None of these things are real, but we're very rarely present. And when you breathe deeply in that way, you actually become present and connected to what we think consciousness, whatever that is, the divine. People think of God or whatever it is that that people have. When you breathe deeply into that place, that's where you go somewhere else. And that's why people who are veterans, serving military guys and girls, and emergency service workers, when they breathe with us for about half an hour, they always get that, wow, I've been somewhere. And what we believe that is, they've just disconnected from this overthinking mind and connected to something other than themselves, which is a place of calm. And that's where I believe the beauty is, the bliss, that sort of good feeling. But everything else. I mean, the reason I was always unhappy and looking for something else, the reason I think breathwork for me was good, is because I was releasing dopamine and serotonin. So we have antidepressants with serotonin inhibitors. So you can actually produce all this stuff within yourself by breathing and getting in cold water. These two things will produce all those things that we're low on. And a good healthy diet as well. We put so much shit in our body, especially when we're stressed, when we're unhappy. I do it still, reach for a chocolate bar or fizzy drink or chips or whatever it is. If you put healthy on all our retreats now, it's all vegan, vegetarian food. It's just the energy you get from it mentally, physically is so much better. But it's what we do, as I'm the same as you. I do drinks still. I've come back with that relationship with it, and I use it. If like now I'm here in Cornwall with my family, I might have a glass of wine. But when I was unhappy, I'd drink because I was unhappy. Now it's something I've sort of in control. So I'm not saying everyone has to stop eating meat, has to stop drinking or whatever it is. Probably best stop smoking. Try doing that. That's one thing that I only gave up last year. That was my last thing. I gave up smoking. But yeah, just trying to base those on everything that we do is healthy body, healthy mind, healthy spirit. So food, exercise, connecting with nature, and breath work. All those things
in moderation.
And everything in moderation. I think the more you try and stop, when I went to Narcotics Anonymous, I went to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I was like, I'm going to stop drinking. I'm an alcoholic. I identified as a drug taker and all this stuff. And as soon as I stopped it and said, I'm not doing it again, I panicked inside. I was like, oh God. Now I've just said, you know what? I'm not doing it today because it doesn't serve me. I'm never saying never to anything. I'm just, today I don't choose it because it just doesn't serve me. And what serves me is getting up in the morning and doing the breath work, and doing whatever it is, going for a sea swim in a minute, all that stuff.
Nice. It's more powerful to control it rather than to deny yourself of it. So if you go back into what you're saying about the pineal gland, I know that some people use psychedelics as kind of like a therapy. I know, especially in America. So you're saying that perhaps with the breathing and the ice baths, there's a way of connecting to your pineal gland and your third eye without having to do illegal substances such as, psychedelic mushrooms or ayahuasca. I'm not sure if ayahuasca's illegal or not. I know that a lot of people do.
Here, yeah, it is here in the UK.
Yeah. So there's a way of connecting more spiritually within your mind, within the pineal gland, than in a legal manner through the ice work and the breathing techniques.
Yeah, we do something else called, with the dynamic breathwork. You can sort of get there. People do report colors and visualizations of stuff. So that means you get in there. But we do another breathwork technique called conscious connected breathwork, which is an hour long to music. The music's framed to sort of lift you up, but it's deep somatic breathing into the diaphragm non-stop. There's no pauses, no breath holds, and you just breathe for an hour with the music framed with drums, and it lifts you. You do get an out-of-body experience. It's a powerful way of connecting to that feeling, that sense. And it also releases trauma, because traumas, trauma, we believe, is stuck somatically within your fascia. So it's stuck, within you. So when you breathe, you can actually, people have shifts, they scream, they cry, they laugh. And that's all that stuff, all that shit that we hold on to, because we hold on to it, don't we? We hold on to our trauma, and some people have this label of PTSD. I used to, I've got it, here it is, I wear it with a badge of honor. But you can actually just shift it. You know, I'm not saying it's easy, but with big, deep breath works, you can shift all that stuff and also connect to something. Who knows what that is, but I believe it's the same. Well, you know, it is the same experience. People who've done ayahuasca and mushrooms and and bufo, these are all different plant medicines. They say that deep breath work is just as powerful and just as connecting as ingesting those plant medicines.
I think it's absolutely crazy that there's so many people around the world that have a similar experience when they go on these trips with, you know, psychedelic mushrooms and ayahuasca and stuff. And it's just sort of like, and a lot of them see very similar images that are quite Buddhist or Hindu sort of related. I mean, I'm not spiritual as such myself. I do believe in a greater thing than what it is. I kind of put it down to Mother Nature, and science is nature and nature is science. It's all, we're just discovering it as we go. I do feel like the human race at the moment is becoming more connected, not only via social media, but I'm not sure if it's just the mindset I've taken, and so I'm noticing in it more now. But I feel like there's going to be some sort of like awakening soon, or it will tip the other way and it will become the dark ages again. But what are your views on the progression of humanity if they were to get into breathing and ice baths and that connection to nature?
I've no doubt that, you know, if everyone breathes and meditation. So meditation, breath work that we do is a form of meditation. It's a deep meditation, and there was some studies done. I can't remember. I should have had the figures, but I'm not sure. I think it was 70s or 80s, but they redid these studies. I think it's about 10,000 people in New York meditated on peace and meditated on the same thing at the same time. And the crime wave, I mean, these studies are actually documented. Crime wave within New York, which was horrendous at the time, I think it dropped by over 50%. So if we don't know what we've got inside us. We've got so much, you know, there's so many senses that we don't use. You know that thing where you connect to someone and they phone you and all that stuff. I just think if we can all breathe deeply. When you breathe, it makes you feel happy, it makes you feel peaceful, it makes you feel calm. It's only when we go on social media or the news that tries to feed us all this bullshit that, you know, that it's about something else, it's about money, it's about all the rest of it. But I think, to answer the question, if everyone breathed and did a self-care technique, it really does make you see the world differently. It makes you feel more loving to self first, you know, because you've got to love yourself first before you can move that out to everyone else. But I think that the world is waking up. I think the kids, the media sort of treads the kids, slagging them off, saying they're all millennials, what do they know? And all that is, I believe, the people at the top of the tree, the sort of 1% who've got the control all the media and all the power, and without getting into any conspiracy theories, because I mean,
I love a conspiracy theory. I don't. Yeah, I love a conspiracy theory.
I mean, there is no conspiracy. They just do it, don't they? They just shag us,
yeah,
and that's it. They do it openly. They do it, you know. And I've worked following this FSB spies who were blackmailing Russian, American politicians, and I know how it works. And I just don't get involved in it. I just think if I can spread breathwork and meditation to as many people as I can, then that's going to make them kinder, and that's going to make them happier. And we just turn all that shit off, that need where people are going, you need to buy this next, you need the new iPhone, no, we need to be kind, compassionate. And I think the younger generation is waking up to that, but they get put down by the media, and because with all this kids today, but you know, the Romans were saying that, the Greek mythology was saying, yeah, kids today. We've been saying that about kids since we were writing stuff down. So it's not this next generation, I think they're more woke, and I think that scares the powers that be, because kids are more woke and they're not taking the shit that we did.
I think there might be an element of it where social media comes into a good sort of play, because allows us to, just have access to a lot of people, therapists, mental health experts, and this, that, and the other. So you're on social media, especially sort of our generation, where we can look at how we were raised when our parents were, bringing us up, and the rights and wrongs and how they did it, and the good points and bad points that they would have had, and analyze that, because we can have access to people that have studied this for years just straight away on our social media, and then learn from that and put it into play with our kids and our grandkids, and sort of raise them in a different mind, in a different matter, that they should analyze everything and love self first, and then everything else comes afterwards. And I think, the next generation, what they're going to come up with and what they're going to come out with, and how connective they're going to be is mind-blowing to me. I can't comprehend it at the moment. Maybe it's my 35-year-old brain isn't as adaptable as what their brains are, but it'd be interesting to see.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. I think that social media, I do slag it off quite a bit, but it's got such a big part to play. I mean, we use it for the Breath Connection. We use it to get all our stuff out there. And I think it has, like people like Russell Brand, he's got a message, and he's really sort of, he's upsetting a lot of people because that he's not taking it. The pharmaceutical companies are going, oh my God, he's talking the truth. Wow, oh my God. It's just the truth, and kids are, kids see it on here, and they can't be fooled as much as, maybe we were by the media and all the rest of it. I think it's got a good place.
Back in the day when there was only 4 channels, and that was the one point of truth. Whereas now they can get all sorts of truths from all sorts of places.
They can, and people are waking up. I do believe people are waking up. We're just going to try and keep pushing that love forward, instead of, all that hate and mistrust, and also they try and get fear into us, don't they? When you turn it all off, there's no fear. There's no fear. Unless we're going over to the Viv, to the Ukraine, me and Miranda, to do some breath work for the soldiers and for the emergency service workers and the families as well, because we're working with a yoga company that's out there already. If you live there, then you've got fear, because you might be invaded. Over here, as long as you've got a roof over your head, you've got food, you've got shelter, you've got warmth. I think we need to want less, don't we? I think we want, and I do it still. I still look at Belstaff coats and go, oh, I like that. I need that. I don't need it. I'd rather give a tenner to someone on the street, who's got nothing. I think that's how we should be. We've got to stop being fed all this bullshit that we need a new car, we need an update on a phone. We need just to look after each other more. We really do. We need to look after each other more, be kind. And it's as simple as that. People try and tell us it's not, but it is as simple as that. It doesn't matter race, colour, creed. Let's all just be kind and loving, and the world's going to be a better place.
I just wish that this sort of message could be inside everybody's head. And I know people end up certain ways, and they could be, they could be quite anti certain other demographics just because of the way that they've had exposure to them in the past. But if you could just take everything out from the past and just concentrate on the present and go, look, that's just a person just like you. That's just a person just like you. Come together, and everyone, just like you say, have love and empathy for each other. That would be an amazing world. It's just one conversation at a time. We'll make it happen, but and hopefully it does fruition. But yeah, so you're down in Cornwall at the moment, is that right?
Yeah, down at Cornwall. My mum lives down here now. They moved down from the north. My sister about 7 years ago, so we're down here. We'll be doing some sessions on Saturday and getting in the sea every day, and then back up to Hampshire to do a police thing with Hampshire Police on Wednesday, and then back up north. So
Cornwall's a beautiful place. Very surf vibe, chill atmosphere. Love it down there. But where can people find your work, and where can people access your events?
Yeah, thanks. www.thebreathconnection.org is our website. If you look on there, it tells you all about us. And on social media, same again, breathconnection.org and Facebook, and we're all over there. And I'm always shouting and doing my stuff every morning. And so just look us up, Samson Murray, thebreathconnection.org, and give us a follow, and we'll come and do some breath work with us, or do a retreat. We're doing loads of retreats now.
That's excellent. Is it kind of like a road show? Do you take it to different places? or is it mainly centered out of one establishment?
Mainly in the Greater Manchester area, but we do travel. So we do stuff in Cornwall. We do private events. We do commercial events. We do lots of work with emergency services and veteran charities as well. We work with Pilgrim Bandits. We work with Rock to Recovery. So if anyone's out there who wants to do stuff with us, give us a shout and we'll come and do some breath work with you. Absolutely.
That's phenomenal. I really appreciate having you on. I love your insight and your direction in which you want to take the people that you interact with, and the more the merrier. So well done for that.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Any final farewell wishes to the people that are listening?
Yeah, well, they're all my brothers and sisters in the armed forces and veterans of, because maybe that's the community. Just to say, but just to know that actually that you're the answer. We always go around the world and we go looking in other people and we go looking in things like alcohol and drugs and drink and cigarettes, whatever it is, or we look in other people for answers and other places for answers. But actually, the answer is you. You're the answer, not me, not anyone else, not me telling you this. It's you're the answer. And when you realize that you're the answer and not anything else, you get your power back and you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you're the answer. And that's it.
That's a phenomenal final message to end it on. That's hit it in the nutshell right there. Nice one. I really appreciate having you on, Sam.
Thank you.
I'll post this out on a Tuesday. It will be coming either next Tuesday or the Tuesday after. But thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Man. Love.
See you soon.
Hello, everyone. You're listening to Blue Pigment Podcast. If you want to become a patron of this show, please go to patreon.com/bluepigment. You will be helping me help the talent that I find along the way. Not only that, the podcast is an advocate for mental health and the positive message in which we want to send about mental health. So if you are a bit about that and you want to jump on board, then please become a patron at patreon.com/bluepigment. Would love to have you on board. And not only that, you'll get the chance to get some free stuff. I'll be giving another big giveaway soon. To find out what it is, go to patreon.com/bluepigment, become a patron and get yourself some free stuff.
Sponsoring the podcast today are Airborne Fit. Airborne Fit is more than just a fitness brand. It represents true team spirit and the coming together of members to create that family feeling. With the support and encouragement of each other, members become motivated, remain disciplined, and work with pure grit and determination to achieve their goals. Airborne's Fit motto is fitter, faster, stronger together. Check out airbornefit.com or visit their Instagram at airbornefitofficial.
Blue Pigment Podcast is sponsored by Huscarl. Go to huscarl.co.uk and use the discount code BluePigment for 15% off. Get yourself some t-shirts, stickers, baseball caps, hoodies, printouts, and many more products from Huscarl. Blue Pigment Podcast, sponsored by Huscarl.
The opinions or views expressed on this podcast are solely of my own or the guests and do not represent the opinions or views of anybody else or the Ministry of Defence.
Shish kebab, Shawshank Redemption, Chicago! You're out of there!